Hello, and welcome back to Uncommon Sense Life. This is my video diary to help me track the progression of my MS and how it impacts my executive function. So, today's subject is our U.S. Constitution, primarily the First Amendment. I know the U.S. Constitution is one of those tricky documents that everyone found to be boring. Well, not everyone. In school, that's if they even try to teach it anymore. But in this one, I want to discuss parts of the Bill of Rights, which is the First Amendment. This is kind of a framework on things that help protect the individual, not the government, not businesses, the individual. That's why it's called a Bill of Rights. So let's begin. Let's see what it says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Interesting. So let's break this down. Congress, okay, people making laws, you don't get to establish a religion. Now, historically, some states tried to or did establish their own state-sponsored religions. And when we came together as a republic, a democratic republic, we said you don't get to do that anymore. Okay? Or prohibiting the exercise thereof. So, if you have a religion that you've created or one that's more commonly brought to you and used by others, they don't get to prohibit you from exercising that, which is interesting because during a public health crisis, we apparently can tell people you don't get to exercise your religion freely. So that's kind of interesting. Or abridging the freedom of speech. So as a government entity, you don't get to abridge or prevent me from free speech or freedom of the press. So you don't get to prohibit me from writing things down and publishing for other people to read. And then the right of the people to peaceably assemble. Okay. And then ultimately to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So let's go back. One, they don't get to establish a religion. So you don't get to favor one religion over another. However, once you get to more established, I guess you get tax breaks. So in a way, unless you have an established religion and getting your tax breaks, you may not be an established religion in their mind. And again, as I said, prohibiting the exercise thereof, free exercise. However, I guess when we deem anything a public health crisis, we get to squash that. That's not what we want people doing. So we just tell them they can't do it as a government entity. Interesting. Or abridging the freedom of speech. Okay. The government can't, but public businesses can, or not public, private businesses. So even if they're in the public, so a business, an employer, sports teams, anything that's a private entity, not a public or government entity, can prevent you from speaking. If they don't want to hear you speak, they don't have to let you speak. If they don't like the message you're putting out, they don't have to let you put it out. They're private entities, not public, not government. Therefore, they can limit your speech. YouTube, I'm on YouTube right now. They are currently a private entity. If they don't like what I'm saying or what other people are saying, they can shut it down. Other social media, same way. As long as they are still deemed to be private, that's when they get to control. Freedom of the press. It's been that way. The narrative of the media has been established by them. They can. They don't have to play both sides. They don't have to listen to all sides. There might be more than one side to a debate. They don't have to. So your newspapers, your magazines, people online, whether there be a tangible hard copy or electronic version, they control the narrative. Growing up, you could write a letter to the editor. They didn't even have to look at it. They didn't have to publish it. There was no mandate that your local newspaper had to publish your complaints about X, Y, or Z, that you want pink picket fences instead of white ones in front of someone's house, or whatever it might be, because they are a private business, not a public one. So, and the right of people to peaceably assemble. Okay, so, I guess the key indicator that you're not there to be peaceful is when you show up with body armor and helmets and clubs and bear mace and Molotov cocktails and lead pipes. Now, of course, anything can be turned into a weapon. Rocks, ink pens, it's interesting. Shoelaces can be turned into a weapon. So, but if you show up pretty much with a sign and your flip-flops and you're out there complaining peacefully, and the government can't stop you. Now, private businesses can, because if you show up on a private business's property and you try to show up in their lobby or try to march through their boardrooms or through their parking lots, they, as being private entities, can squash your assembly. They can squash your freedom of speech because, again, they're private, not public. So last is to petition the government for a redress of these grievances. That's our court systems. Now, our court systems are not infallible. We've had numerous incidents where courts just toss things aside because they can. And unfortunately, in my mind, that's a problem. If someone has brought something to a court, federal court, and they have a grievance, a single judge should not have the ability to make a summary judgment and toss it in the garbage. And if they do, then it should be moved up without issue then to appellate courts. You shouldn't have to redress it yourself. It should automatically, the single entity judge should sit down and say, listen, here's a new venue for you, and it's not going to be me because they don't want to touch it. And quite often, that's what it is. It's political. And you'll find that judges that do want to touch these big topics only do it because it's political. And they want their name in the paper. And they want to be the one that squashed this law or squashed that order or whatever it might be against the government. And again, that's wrong. Unfortunately, we've even had our Supreme Court take very visible, high-profile subjects and not want to touch it because they're highly political. And in doing so, it can cause outbreaks of unpeaceful assembly because, it's a large topic. But we need to hear those. We need to bring those subjects even into court and allow them to be debated. When we don't have open discussions and grievances with our government, and be allowed to openly discuss these, even with now pseudo government agencies of school boards. You should be able to bring your grievances peacefully to them. And whether or not they want to actually address it and discuss it is one thing, but you should be given the ability to actually bring it to them and state your case. And then if they want to pat you on the head and tell you to go about your business, they can. So now that's now where the court system should come in play. So I guess anyone who has been turned away by a government agency and not allowed their freedom of religion or their freedom of speech, or told that they couldn't write something down and carry it around, or peacefully assemble, take it to the courts, I guess. That's all you can do. Because, it's not all common sense, because there is no common sense. Because if common sense were common, I wouldn't have anything to say, but I guess I have to. Thank you.